I'm Emanuel Rose with Strategic eMarketing, and I'm here today with Scott Rogerson from UpContent. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I have become a content marketing nerd, and I'm sure I'm in good company with you.
Yes. Never enough.
Well, I have a few quick questions to ask you and to see if we can generate some action plans for a person who may be watching this video. So UpContent is a content marketing service provider. Maybe just give us a simple description of what you guys do, and then we can dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, obviously when you say content marketing service provider, a lot of people watching this will automatically think, oh, they're another group that writes things for me, right? Which is not what we are. So if that's what you were hoping, sorry, that's another episode instead. What we focus upon is providing a technology that allows our customers to implement a content curation strategy, which is a term that many probably aren't familiar with, or maybe you heard that, but don't really know what that means. And our focus in curation is to help you discover third-party articles. So not content that you're going to repurpose and pretend is your own or pay for the ability to reuse, but instead be able to kind of authentically say to your audience, these are some other things I think you would be interested in reading to help you understand more about how I think about your problems, how I think about my solutions to your problems, so that you can make better decisions and provide you some context to what I'm already creating and producing and sharing with you. So our tool helps with that discovery. It helps with the collaboration if it's more than just yourself doing that activity. And then it helps tie into the tools that you're already using to get that content out to your audience. So your current email, your current social media tool, and your current website CMS. And I know we'll talk about why that matters and how that works a little bit further.
Yeah, well, no, that's good. I appreciate that, the distinctions you drew there. I'm curious, are you able to see in the kind of the Wizard of Oz back office part, what kind of data is being like opens and views, and are you privy to that? Not obviously tied to any one account, but just in general.
Sure.
Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of across all your customers in what they're experiencing?
Yeah, so we do capture that information, and it's something that we share with our customers, not obviously, like you said, sharing other customers' data with current customers, but talking about it from a macro level, kind of the UpContent universe, if you will, but also being able to share on a per industry, because obviously every industry is a little different.
Sure.
One of the things that we've seen consistently hold true, which is what a lot of external research has shown as well, is that third-party articles, particularly on social, but not exclusively, tend to get greater engagement than original posts that come out on those platforms. And these are comparing both posts. One is linking out to your own website, one is linking out to a third-party site. I wanted to make that distinction, as all of the other content marketing nerds out there know that these social platforms like to keep you in their platform. So this is not comparing it to content that you've natively created in the platform, but instead, am I linking to myself or am I linking out to a third-party article? Those that link out to third-party articles tend to have twice the engagement rate of articles that are linking to your own blog or your own white paper, if you will. But I think what was more important that we consistently see is this concept of mix, right? So not looking at each post in a vacuum and saying, did this post do well? And did this post do poorly? And then making a very small linear decision of, if this post did well, I'm just going to exclusively do those posts from now on, right? Yeah. And if this post did poorly, I'm never posting that type of content again. But instead, really considering the mix. And that's where I really nerded out, if you will, about what's the right mix? How do we present ourselves as ourselves and not as a robot that is just posting the same stuff as everybody else, or just posting what my company has written or what I've written all the time. And we see this important mix of, and this is really across industries, certainly heavier into B2B. But if you have about 45, maybe 50% of industry thought leadership type posts, about half of that should probably be linking out to third parties. The other portion can still link to your own thought leadership. About 25% are those promotional posts. Please don't forget those. To your last video, I 100% agree. Do not pitch all the time, but also don't forget that you're still trying to earn new business on these platforms. So you do need to let them know what you can offer.
Yep.
The other is probably the most interesting component, which is this lifestyle content. And that's, 33%, if my math is correct, of those other two, trying to get to 100. These are the articles that are talking about things that you care about that maybe aren't directly related to your industry. So this is like return to work, stress, anxiety, health and lifestyle, those types of content, pictures of your kids, things that you've done, right? Those are important too. And those are often the ones that are left behind because we don't want to dedicate time to that.
Right.
By achieving that mix, we've seen that those promotional posts get about twice the conversion rate, which is what we're all after, than if you're only posting your own stuff all the time.
Interesting.
So that mix has been important.
So the content curator role is really something that adds to your influence zone or sphere.
Right.
What you're saying. That's
right.
I hadn't heard that before.
And it does it in a few different ways, right? We all naturally are reading things that we think are interesting. And we're all naturally probably saying, hey, Emanuel, read this really great article from Search Engine Journal the other day that said this, this, and that. What we've seen that's interesting is that we often forget to share that on our platforms and include that because it takes time. There's a lot of copying and pasting there. But what you see in just the analog conversations, if I said to you, I read this interesting article and it told me these things that you found to be important, when you go and tell the next person, you in most cases are going to forget the actual publisher of that article. You're going to say, this guy told me that these things happened. And who was that guy? Oh, it was Scott who told me those things. And he read an article, is the usual phrase we say about these things.
Yep.
So you're associating the value with the person who brought you the information more so than you are with the publisher who originally created that information or brought that information to them. And that's exactly what curation can offer. The trouble is doing it consistently, as we always have trouble, right? Making sure we're always finding that stuff and it's not just this ad hoc, I found something today and I have some time, so I'm going to share it. How do we do it consistently? Curation can help. And a true curation strategy can help with that.
And I guess, do you have some sense about of that consistency and what consistency adds to a profile or to a brand or to a website?
Yeah, and I think what's really important in that statement is that consistency in most cases doesn't demand a post per week threshold, right? As unfortunately, there's no magic bar that we've seen. There's a lot of it depends that goes along with that. But what we haven't seen change is that if you start out doing it, even if you're doing a post a month, right? Which with everyone would say, that's never enough, right? Which is likely true. That's not enough. You should do more than that. But what we often coach and work with our partners like yourselves and helping customers to achieve is if that's all you can do, at least be consistent in doing that. What we don't want to see, right, is the 8 posts in a week and then silence for 2 months. And then 8 posts all of a sudden happen and then silence for 2 months because we don't build ourselves up. We aren't that consistent person in the minds of our audience. And the networks don't like that either, right? So they will depress your content if you're not consistently sharing and engaging with that content. So if you can only do it once a week, make sure you're at least sticking to that. And obviously we would recommend more for our customers who are supporting their teams. So 1 degree of separation away, right? So through tools like Social HP, which I know you know very well, they're supporting their teams and having the right content to share so their team members can be consistent. We often see a nice sweet spot of making sure there's at least 15 new posts per week available to your team members.
Nice.
Your team's not going to post 15 things, right? So we're not asking that person from accounts payable to all of a sudden blow up their LinkedIn profile by posting 15 new things every week. But if they pick a third of those things to post, you're going to start to see value from that. And probably what's most important is that that person from accounts payable who initially thought that this was just another requirement, another piece of flair in their job description that they had to adhere to, now is actually seeing this as a valuable resource for them to see new things that are happening in the industry that they would have liked to read, or the charity that the team often supports. Hey, they wrote a recently new blog as well, and I'd like to share that on LinkedIn. Or I really care about mindfulness or wellness in the workplace, and I like sharing that content as well. You want that content offering to be a service to that person rather than just seeing them as a pathway to get to their audience, right? And that's always when these programs fall apart.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point, that the curated content may actually then spur people who are non-participants into participating in a different level. Yes. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious if you're seeing, we've gotten all this messaging about how important video is over the last 3 or 4 years. Are you seeing a discrepancy between video content and print and still image content? And it's
a great question. With? Yeah, really good question. I think on the content as a whole, if we don't dissect it between original and curated content, I agree with all of the great statistics that are out there, right? Video does tend to get the eyeball. It does tend to stop the thumb exercise as you're scrolling through, because you're just curious about what that person's going to do next. What are they talking about? In a lot of cases, though, those videos, and which is why you start to see exactly what you're doing, where you have the transcript showing, right? Because I'm on the bus or the train, or I can't listen to the video right now. So all I'm just seeing is a person talking, and nothing's resonating with me. I might have watched the video for 15 seconds. So LinkedIn gives you a click on that. I didn't get anything from the video though, other than like, this guy did a video. So text still matters. What we have not seen value in is curating video. So I think from an original content standpoint, video, podcasts, infographics, all of those things are extremely valuable and great, either solo ways to bring that message to your audience, or what I love doing, right, is create the video, use that, turn that into a text-based post, share that, pull out some snippets, right, present those, maybe pull out some, good quotes, turn that into some visuals. Now that conversation is giving you lots of value, because original content should be an asset. Yeah. On the curated content side, sharing someone else's video, it's hard to make the wires connect consistently there. There's not as great of an experience in most cases. If I'm sending you to YouTube, for example, I have no idea what's showing up on the side of that, whatever your browsing history was, and I don't know if I want to be associated with that or not. And it's hard for you to then find your way back to me in that case, because I've sent you off into some other rabbit hole. Yeah. And then similarly, from a video or from an imagery standpoint, we do still need to make sure we're considering the old copyright and plagiarism conversations that we learned back in grade school, that we can't just kind of strip that and just present it. Even if we give, this was originally created by Emanuel, that's great. Does it give you any value, though, the fact that I shared it? Well, if I'm not tagging you on it or providing you a direction back, even though I'm saying that you created it, you could get prickly, right, about that. Yeah. Like, it doesn't really help me in you using my image. So we've seen still that text-based content in a fair use structure, where you're sharing maybe your perspective on that, just a couple sentences, linking out to the original article, but giving them a way to come back to you afterwards, still seems to be the best way to leverage curation today. As things change from a technology standpoint, from a presentation standpoint, and if there are better ways to kind of link back and give value back to the original creator of that video or that image, it's still something that we're following very closely. But if we look at the market today, it seems that video and imagery still are best created, and text-based content is best created as a ancillary or a tangent from what you've originally produced, video and image, or curating the text-based content.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess it's bad news for everybody who doesn't like to be on video, right?
Yes, but just record yourself, right? And just talk. And then there's a lot of great services out there. Coming from an agency background, I wished our clients would just talk about what they're interested in rather than giving us a topic and us having to try to become experts in accounting or law or wellness, right? And then present back a draft that gets laughed at by that client because we don't know, right? And then they're spending more time editing than if they would just sit there and just spew their knowledge for 30 minutes with a record button on their phone and send us that file. That would be amazing. So don't fear the video, just talk. We can pull out some snippets. And I'm sure you and your team can really help with that, of really perfecting it and making it professional. But what we can't create from nothing is the knowledge that you have as an individual in that space.
The subject matter expertise can never be mimicked, right? You're either on or you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's who you're working with in the end anyway, right? So it would be best to hear from the person who I'm actually going to work with, even if they are quirky and that's the personality, because then I know what I'm getting. And you may see more people want to work with you because you're showcasing that personality. So original content, speaking from someone who helps customers curating, we always talk about the importance of original content, but not just creating it for volume, right? And that was kind of the past life in the agency world. We were always creating just because we thought we had to in order to be consistent. What we saw was create when you have something unique and interesting to say, repurpose that unique and interesting thing. So it's not just one shot out of the cannon for that one great insight, but then curate around it to provide context and keep stimulating people to want to listen or watch or read your original perspective.
That's great. That's a great point. Speaking of that, I guess what do you see kind of as the trend going forward in the short term for both web content and curated web content and curated social media content?
Yeah, I think the big trend that's been very interesting to follow is that, historically, content is king was like the most commonly said term, I think, ever, right, since the late 90s. And content is still extremely important. But I think what we're seeing a shift in is where it used to be the brand saying things, and you as a employee of that brand would kind of latch on to the wisdom of the brand, and that would kind of shine a nice halo upon you because you were now smart because you worked at that company. It's now shifted, I think, to the employees are the ones who are building the audience. They're the ones who are building their own personal brands, and the brand of the organization is now the summation of their individual brands. And I'm picking who I want to work with as a client or as a customer, and who I want to work for as an employee, not based upon how great your brand colors are, if you changed your font recently, or even what you said on your website, but based upon what your employees are saying or what the people I'm going to be working with are saying on their own social networks, what emails I'm receiving from them, not from the generic mailbox. And what we're seeing more and more, especially in professional services, is each one of those staff members, each one of those employees or subject matter experts has their own either landing page or even own microsite that has their own perspective on things, their own take on the recent blog that the company wrote, their own articles that they care about. And that's super exciting for me, right? Because people are who we end up working with, and it's nice to no longer be brand first, and then you kind of roll the die and figure out, are you going to work with the good person or are you going to work with the crazy person? You don't really know because you're contracting with the brand. Now you're contracting with the person, and the brand is almost the back office and the additional resources that they have to support them. So that's an exciting trend, and curation obviously is critical there. To your point, these are not all videographers, right, who are subject matter experts. They aren't former journalists. They aren't copywriters, but they have great things to say and great things to share. So creating a platform for them to share that with their own perspective in a more casual way is what curation can certainly support, and then the original content can reinforce.
Yeah, wow. Well, I learned a lot today, Scott. I appreciate you breaking that down. That's exciting. And it gives me a new lens as curated content is not just a second best or a way to avoid having to do it myself, but it's really a way to add more value to my network, which is ultimately what our job is as professionals. So
absolutely. Very well said. Appreciate the time. Really enjoyed the discussion.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, and stay warm out there in on the East Coast.
We're doing our best.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.